Someone called me an elitist on Twitter fairly recently, and it amused me, and I kind of want to discuss that for a bit. I'm Singaporean, and I grew up in a culture that very much kind of venerates this high achievement, this kind of stratification of society, this belief that the most able and whatever rise to the top, right? And there are people who are fit to rule, and there are people who are not, and so my parents were not educated. Like my dad, I think, dropped out of secondary school. Like he studied until he was like 13 or 14 maybe. My mom got her O levels, which is like until she's 16, so she never went to junior college or polytechnic or whatever. So both of my parents are not very educated. My dad ran his own kind of cleaning services company. So he was like his dad was a gardener. My mom's dad was a postman, right? And so my dad would go around washing buses when he was young, and then he would do gardening services and stuff. And eventually, kind of like one thing led to another, and he was ended up doing like industrial waste disposal, meaning he would have a truck, and he would go around to industrial estates and pick up their trash, which is like wood waste, paper waste, metal. I mean, you don't want to know the details, but yeah, so it's kind of it's a complicated thing with status, because on one hand you could think of him as a literal garbage man, like he was hauling trash all the time, and on the other hand you could think of him as a founder CEO of a company, right? He was the managing director of his own company, his entrepreneur, and he would set his own hours, and he would work whenever he wanted to work, which was a lot of the time, right? There's no work-life balance, no boundaries. He had no boss. He had no so it's complicated, right? It's a very, I would say it's very different than what most of society, at least in Singapore, right? Most of Singaporean society, how they think about status. And when I was a kid, I read a lot of books, and I liked logic puzzles and all that shit, and just out of random chance or whatever, I ended up in trying out a test at school for, spoilers, the gifted education program, and I succeeded, and so I joined Singapore's gifted education program. Now you already know probably that Singapore has like a whatever high pressure cookers education system to begin with, and the gifted education kids were like the top 0.1% or top 1% or whatever. And over there I mingled with kids who were of extremely blue blood, kids who were children of ministers, children of billionaires, right? Just kids who were, from their perspective, they were born and raised to rule. Like, if you ask me, like, they're natural aristocrats or whatever. And it's so funny how my experience with those kids, I feel, was so different than the way people talk about it online. Like, there's a gap. Like, people don't seem to the people who discuss it don't seem to have actually spent time with these kids, and some of them try to be good, but I would say for a bunch of them, they don't even think about it. It's just the way of the world for them. Like, they are obviously meant to be in charge, and the peasants are obviously meant to be peasants. Like, that's how it was for. And so I didn't relate to that, because I'm the garbage man's son, right? I didn't know how to think about scholarships, and how to think about studying overseas, and how to eat fancy food. And like, I was like 20 something when I learned about like how you eat like expensive bread with balsamic vinegar and olive oil and all that stuff. Like, it's just foreign to me. I was just, and so I was always determined. I would say I always had a soft spot for genuine nerds, and some of those rich kids, they were genuine nerds. Again, it's like reality never quite fits into these tidy little kind of boxes that we try to frame things in, right? Like, some rich kids are wonderful, some poor kids are assholes. It is the way of the thing. That doesn't mean that rich kids don't have privilege that insulates them from a lot of the ugly things about reality. And it is probably in some ways easier to be generous and kind and whatnot when you don't have to worry about where your next meal is coming from, right? And poor kids have all kinds of additional stresses and struggles, and it's just, there's a lot of literature about this. You can go and look it up, but like actually experiencing it or witnessing people from different parts of the spectrum, it gives me a context that I feel that a lot of people who come at me and ask me about these things don't quite have. They have one position, and they inhabit that universe, and so everything outside of that universe is very easy to shit on because you don't feel it. You don't have friends from there. You don't spend time with them. You don't expect to ever go there, so you can just kind of shit on them, right? And I have always, what breaks my heart, right, is knowing that there are incredibly smart kids all over the world who are trapped in shitty social graphs, right? Their families are shitty, or their friends are shitty. They don't have access to opportunity. They don't have, they just kind of, they're trapped. I've met them. They talk to me all the time. They don't believe in themselves, right? They're full of, a lot of them have self-loathing, self-doubt. They don't think they're going to make it in the world, and a lot of them are right because they don't possess the skill set that they need to interface with other people who hold the gates, right? They don't know how to interface with gatekeepers, and they don't have social charm and skills and stuff like that, and so they are very much gonna be trapped where they are. A lot of them are, and that offends me. It upsets me. I want these kids to flourish, partially because I see a bit of myself in them, and partially because I just think the world would be a better place if we could find talent and let it shine, let it flourish. And some people, when they witness me say these things, they think I am saying only the talented deserve to thrive, right? Well, and first of all, I don't quite agree with fixed mindset models of talent. I believe I believe every child is born like a creative genius. I genuinely believe that. And I think that you can learn to become more talented. And in fact, what happens is most people have their talent suppressed, their taste suppressed. And so they never learn to find out who they are, what they care about, what they're passionate about, what they want to learn. And if they don't get to do that, then they don't get to develop the skills that they could then share with the world, and great things can happen. Now, I have limited time and resources. That's a frustrating reality of the way the world is, right? If I had unlimited resources, I would share them unlimitedly with everyone, and we would. Or that's not the world we live in, right? We have limited time, limited energy. We have to devote our time and energy where we think it's gonna do its best work, right? And I try to prioritize helping people who I think would help other people in turn, right? So if you're saying I'm helping only 100 people and I should be helping thousands of people, let's just say for some reason that's the way it is. Well, the way to help thousands of people is to pick the hundreds of people who want to help other people, right? So I have to prioritize people who I think can embody growth mindset so that we can help other people. Is it unfortunate that I can't, give free therapy to every kid that needs it? Yeah. But, I'm sorry, man. I'm honestly doing the best I can. I'm trying to give so-called free therapy to the people who I trust will then be going on to give free therapy to other people. And the more of such people we have in the world around us, the more we raise these lights, right? They form a network amongst themselves, and they form a scene, and then other people can opt in, and then the whole thing rises. Do you see what I'm doing, what I'm talking about? Thinking about this in terms of elitism is a very narrow-minded frame. It's a very short-termist frame. And my question is, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? What are you doing with... And I don't mean this as an attack. I don't mean this as I'm better than you. I mean, I'm doing what I'm doing. What are you doing? Can I help you? If you're bringing this energy to me, right? You're coming to me with, hey, what you're doing is what are you doing there? Teach me how to do what I'm doing better, right? Okay, and then we'll figure that out together, right? And then we'll make everything better for everyone. Not tomorrow, maybe not in our lifetimes, but we can set things up well in a way that things work out, right? I have strong feelings about this. Let me know what you think. Done.